How do you survive when the wild world strikes back with brutal force? From remote cabins in Alaska to the wilderness of Siberia, bears have made unexpected and terrifying encounters with humans. In 2024, a Russian grizzly bear attacked a police station, while an Alaskan bear broke into a hunting cabin. In the Siberian tundra, a bear charged snowmobile riders. In a national park in Alberta's Rocky Mountains, a grizzly mauled a camper. Polar bears attacked Inuits in the Arctic, and in Washington, a black bear injured a tourist. These 6 attacks remind us of the unpredictable danger wild animals pose, especially in remote and isolated regions. On January 21, 2024, a fierce winter storm swept through the remote Siberian village of Ust-Kut, blanketing the area in snow and ice. The harsh conditions made survival difficult for both humans and wildlife. Officer Dmitry Morozov, a dedicated law enforcement officer, was stationed at the village's small police station, which served as a hub for safety and order in the isolated community. In his mid-30s, Dmitry had grown up in Siberia and was well versed in life's challenges in such a remote region. His strong build and calm demeanor made him a respected figure among the villagers, who often sought his help during emergencies. That evening, Dmitry performed routine checks around the station, ensuring everything was in order. The biting cold seeped through the walls despite the heaters working at full capacity. The village was eerily quiet, with most residents staying indoors to avoid the brutal weather. Dmitry, however, remained alert, knowing that extreme conditions often brought unexpected challenges. Unbeknownst to him, a large Siberian brown bear was wandering near the outskirts of the village, disoriented and desperate due to the storm. The bear, drawn by food and warmth, approached the police station. Its massive frame and powerful strides left deep tracks in the snow, a silent warning of the danger coming. The animal's instincts were heightened by hunger, making it unpredictable and aggressive. The incident began when Dmitry heard a loud crash coming from the back of the station. Startled, he grabbed his flashlight and headed toward the noise source. To his shock, the bear had broken through the back door, its large claws easily tearing through the wood. The bear thrashed around inside the station, overturning furniture and scattering supplies. Dmitry quickly assessed the situation and realized the severity of the threat. Acting instinctually, Dmitry attempted to contain the bear by luring it into the station's holding room. He grabbed a baton and made loud noises to draw its attention. The bear, however, turned its fury toward Dmitry. The bear charged incredibly fast as he tried to move toward the holding room. Dmitry fought bravely to protect the station, but the bear overpowered him. Officer Dmitry Morozov was attacked and mauled by the bear, suffering severe injuries to his legs and torso. The bear knocked him unconscious during the struggle, leaving him motionless on the station floor. The situation spiraled into chaos as the bear continued to wreak havoc inside the building. The other officers who had taken cover called for immediate backup. They knew they could not handle the bear alone and urgently needed help. Outside, the storm continued to rage, making it difficult for wildlife rangers to reach the scene. As the minutes passed, the bear's rampage showed no signs of stopping, and Dmitry's condition remained critical. The stage was set for a tense and dangerous resolution. The situation inside the police station grew more desperate as the bear continued its rampage. The storm outside howled fiercely, adding to the chaos within the small, damaged building. Dmitry Morozov lay unconscious on the floor, severely injured and motionless. The other officers remained hidden, aware that any sudden movement could provoke the bear further. They anxiously awaited the arrival of help, their only hope of containing the wild animal and saving Dmitry. The call for assistance had reached the local wildlife rangers, who immediately prepared for the rescue. However, the harsh winter storm made their journey perilous. Snow-covered roads and fierce winds delayed their progress, leaving the officers trapped with the bear for an eternity. Meanwhile, the bear began to lose interest in the wreckage it had caused. Its agitation seemed to subside momentarily as it focused on the scattered food supplies. This brief pause allowed the remaining officers to regroup and plan their next move. Armed with whatever equipment they could find, the officers carefully positioned themselves in the farthest corner of the station. They used their radios to maintain contact with the approaching rangers, providing updates on the bear's movements and Dmitry's condition. Despite the fear and tension, the officers knew they had to remain calm. and ensure the situation did not escalate further. Every passing minute felt like an eternity as they prayed for the rangers to arrive. When the wildlife rangers finally reached the police station, they wasted no time. Equipped with tranquilizer guns and protective gear, they cautiously entered the building. The bear, startled by the new presence, growled and reared up on its hind legs, a formidable sight even for the experienced rangers. Maintaining a safe distance, they worked quickly to calm the bear. A well-aimed tranquilizer dart hit its mark, and within moments, the massive animal began to slow down. The bear eventually collapsed onto the floor, its breathing steady but subdued. With the bear no longer a threat, attention turned to Dmitri. His injuries were severe, with deep wounds to his legs and torso, and he remained unconscious. The rangers and officers carefully carried him out of the station and into a waiting ambulance. The storm still raged, but the emergency responders navigated the treacherous conditions to transport Dmitri to the nearest hospital. News of the attack spread quickly, drawing attention to the challenges faced by communities in remote areas. The incident highlighted wildlife risks during harsh winters and the importance of preventive measures, such as reinforced buildings and secure storage for food supplies. Dmitri underwent several surgeries to treat his injuries, and though his recovery was slow, he eventually regained consciousness. He faced a long rehabilitation journey but survived the ordeal, thanks to the swift actions of his colleagues and the wildlife rangers. Once it recovered from the tranquilizer, the bear was safely relocated to a remote area far from human settlements. The incident served as a sobering reminder of the unpredictable power of nature and the need for coexistence with wildlife. On December 19, 2022, Tom Miller, a seasoned hunter with years of experience navigating Alaska's rugged terrains, found himself in a life-threatening situation. Tom was no stranger to the wild. He had spent decades hunting in remote areas, often choosing the solitude of isolated cabins over the comfort of modern life. He enjoyed the peace and challenge of Alaska's wilderness, where survival depended on skill and caution. This trip took him near a national park located in the central area of the Alaska Range, known for its breathtaking landscapes and abundant wildlife. Tom had chosen a small, rustic hunting cabin deep in the forest. Built decades ago, the cabin was simple, offering little more than a roof, a wood stove, and a few basic furnishings. The area was quiet and remote, far from the reach of cell service or nearby settlements. For Tom, this isolation was part of the adventure. He had stocked the cabin with preserved meats, dried goods, and enough supplies to last him through the harsh Alaskan winter. The day had been uneventful. Tom spent the daylight hours tracking game and observing the movements of local wildlife. The temperature dropped sharply as night fell and the surrounding forest became eerily silent. Tom returned to the cabin, lit a fire in the wood stove, and prepared a simple meal. Outside, the wind howled, carrying with it the distant sounds of the wilderness. Unbeknownst to Tom, a large grizzly bear was nearby, drawn by the scent of the food stored inside the cabin. The bear, likely struggling to find sustenance during the harsh winter, was desperate. Its powerful sense of smell led it straight to the cabin. Unaware of the impending danger, Tom was seated at the small wooden table, enjoying the warmth of the fire. Suddenly, he heard a loud crash. The sound was unmistakable. The bear was trying to break in. Tom quickly grabbed a knife from the table and backed away as the bear smashed through a poorly reinforced window. Shards of glass and wooden splinters flew across the room as the massive animal entered. The cabin, though small, was now a chaotic scene of destruction. Tom tried to keep his distance, waving the knife and shouting to scare the bear off, but it was undeterred. The bear, driven by hunger, lunged at him with incredible force. As the bear attacked, Tom sustained deep lacerations to his arms and chest while struggling to defend himself. His left arm was injured severely, and he was thrown against the cabin wall, breaking several ribs. Despite the pain, he managed to slash at the bear with his knife, causing it to retreat momentarily. The cabin was in shambles, and Tom, bleeding and injured, knew he had to act fast. The bear, startled by the noise and movement, finally fled into the night, leaving the cabin destroyed and Tom fighting to stay conscious. He realized he had to reach for help before his injuries worsened. Tom stood in the wrecked cabin, his breath labored and uneven. The fire in the wood stove had dimmed, leaving the room colder and darker. Blood soaked his torn clothing and his injuries throbbed with intense pain. The deep cuts on his arms and chest bled heavily, and his broken ribs made every breath feel like a sharp stab. He knew he had no time to waste. If he stayed in the cabin without help, his chances of survival were slim. Summoning all his strength, Tom wrapped his wounds as best as he could with pieces of fabric torn from his supplies. Each movement sent jolts of pain through his body, but he pushed forward, knowing his life depended on it. Outside, the snow-covered wilderness stretched endlessly. The ranger station, his only hope, was miles away. The path was treacherous, with icy patches and hidden obstacles under the thick snow. Tom stepped into the freezing night, gripping a sturdy branch for support. The cold wind bit into his skin, and every step felt heavier than the last. He left behind the ruined cabin, now silent except for the faint creaks of the damaged structure. The bear was gone, but the fear of its return lingered in his mind. The moonlight offered guidance as he trudged through the snow, leaving a trail of red drops behind him. Hours passed as Tom struggled to make his way toward the ranger station. His vision blurred, and exhaustion threatened to overtake him. The loss of blood weakened him further, and the pain from his injuries was relentless. At one point, he stumbled into the snow, his body too tired to continue. But the thought of survival and the years of experience that had taught him resilience kept him going. Slowly, he rose again, determined not to give up. Finally, as dawn began to break, Tom saw the small structure of the ranger station in the distance. Relief flooded his heart, but he knew he was not safe yet. Each step toward the building felt like an enormous effort. When he reached the station, he collapsed at the door, banging weakly until the rangers heard him and rushed to his aid. The rangers quickly assessed his condition and contacted emergency services. A helicopter was dispatched to airlift him to the nearest hospital. Tom was treated for deep lacerations, broken ribs, and severe blood loss. Doctors praised his determination and quick thinking, which had saved his life. The attack gained attention in local and national news. Wildlife officials tracked and euthanized the bear, citing the threat it posed to humans in the area. Tom's story served as a reminder of the dangers of the wilderness and the importance of proper precautions, such as securely storing food and bear-proofing cabins. Tom eventually recovered from his injuries, though the memory of the attack stayed with him. His experience highlighted the need for better safety measures in remote locations, ensuring others would learn from his ordeal and be better prepared. On February 5, 2023, the vast and freezing expanse of the Siberian tundra was blanketed by heavy snow, with temperatures plunging far below zero. Pavel and Dmitry, two experienced snowmobile riders, were assigned to inspect remote oil drilling sites near the Yamal Peninsula routinely. This area, known for its harsh winters and isolation, required skilled individuals like them to navigate its treacherous terrain. Pavel, a seasoned oil worker, had spent years in Siberia and knew the tundra well. Younger and eager, Dmitry relied on Pavel's guidance as they traversed the frozen landscape. Their journey began early in the morning. The snowmobiles roared across the icy plains, their headlights cutting through the dense fog. The riders were equipped with standard safety gear and carried a rifle for protection. Though encounters with wildlife were rare during the harsh winter months, the tundra stretched endlessly around them, an unforgiving and desolate environment. The duo checked the stability of pipelines and ensured the equipment. The aft was damaged in extreme weather, covering several miles. It briefly broke near a cluster of snow-covered rocks. Unbeknownst to them, the stones concealed a bear's den. The Russian grizzly bear, likely disturbed by the snowmobile's vibrations, emerged suddenly from its hibernation. Startled and disoriented, the massive bear charged toward the riders with alarming speed. The sight of the bear sent a wave of panic through Dmitry and Pavel. Dmitry quickly tried to start his snowmobile, but before he could move, the bear reached him. The bear dragged Dmitry off his vehicle, its claws tearing through his thick winter jacket as he struggled to break free. Pavel, standing nearby, grabbed his rifle and aimed at the bear. However, the bear swiped at him with its powerful paw, knocking the weapon out of his hands. The force of the blow sent Pavel tumbling into the snow, and the bear clawed at his shoulder, leaving deep wounds. The still-running snowmobiles added to the chaos as engines sputtered against the icy wind. Dmitry lay motionless on the ground, and the bear, seemingly disinterested after its sudden aggression, began retreating toward the den. The brief but brutal encounter left both men severely injured. Pavel's critical injuries included deep claw marks on his shoulder and chest, while Dmitri appeared unconscious and unresponsive. Realizing the severity of their situation, Pavel used every ounce of strength to crawl toward Dmitri and check for signs of life. Though his companion's breathing was faint, it was steady. Their snowmobiles were damaged but still functional. With no time to waste, Pavel fought through the pain to secure Dmitri on one of the snowmobiles before starting the slow, grueling ride back toward the nearest outpost for help. Pavel gritted his teeth as he steered the damaged snowmobile through the unforgiving Siberian tundra. The cold wind howled around him, making it difficult to see through the frosted visor of his helmet. Dmitri was slumped behind him, tied securely to the vehicle to prevent him from falling. Pavel's injuries throbbed with every jolt and bump, but he focused on reaching the nearest outpost before it was too late. The snowmobile sputtered, its engine struggling in the extreme cold, but it held together as the pair slowly traveled across the icy terrain. After what felt like hours, the outpost finally came into view. It was a small structure built to withstand the harsh weather, with bright lights piercing the darkness. Pavel's strength was nearly gone, but he pushed on, knowing that Dmitri's life depended on him. As he approached, workers rushed out to help. They untied Dmitri from the snowmobile and carried him inside. Pavel collapsed into the snow, too weak to move any further. Inside the outpost, the workers quickly assessed the situation. Dmitri was still breathing, but his injuries were severe. His clothes were shredded and blood had soaked through the thick layers of fabric. Pavel's wounds were deep, and he showed signs of hypothermia after hours in the cold. The workers radioed for emergency assistance, and within an hour a rescue helicopter arrived to transport the two men to a hospital. The helicopter ride was tense. Medical personnel worked to stabilize Dmitri, who remained unconscious but alive. Pavel, though awake, was weak and in pain. The bitter cold had worsened their conditions, but the warmth of the helicopter cabin brought some relief. As they flew over the snowy landscape, Pavel could not help but replay the terrifying moments of the attack in his mind. The image of the bear, its powerful frame emerging from the den, was burned into his memory. At the hospital, doctors and nurses worked tirelessly to treat the men. Dmitri underwent emergency surgery to address internal injuries and stabilize his condition. Pavel's wounds required stitches, and his arm was placed in a sling due to a dislocated shoulder. Both men were monitored closely for signs of infection, as their injuries had been exposed to the harsh elements in the bear's claws. News of the attack spread quickly, drawing attention to the risks faced by workers in remote and dangerous regions. Wildlife experts were dispatched to the area to track the bear and ensure it posed no further threat. The incident raised questions about safety measures for those working in isolated environments. Suggestions included better training on bear behavior, improved defense equipment, and stricter protocols for avoiding wildlife encounters. Pavel and Dmitri eventually began to recover, though the experience left them with physical and emotional scars. Pavel returned home with a newfound respect for the unpredictable power of nature. Though grateful to be alive, Dmitri would never forget when he came face to face with one of Siberia's most fearsome predators. On June 15, 2024, the serene wilderness of a national park in Alberta's Rocky Mountains, Canada, was alive with the sounds of nature. An avid outdoorsman, David had chosen to camp near Lake Louise, a picturesque spot known for its turquoise waters and surrounding mountain peaks. For David, camping in such remote locations was not unusual. He had spent years exploring the wild and had developed a deep appreciation for the beauty and challenges of nature. Armed with his trusty camping gear, bear spray, and a firm understanding of wildlife safety, he felt prepared for any situation. David had arrived at Lake Louise 3 days earlier, eager to escape the noise of city life and reconnect with nature. He spent his days hiking, fishing, and photographing the breathtaking landscapes. His campsite, tucked away in a quiet clearing, was carefully chosen for its distance from popular trails and human activity. David had hung his food high in a tree, a standard precaution to avoid attracting wildlife. As the sun set on June 15th, the evening began like any other. David prepared a simple meal over his portable stove, enjoying the cool breeze and the calming sounds of the nearby lake. He double-checked his campsite, ensuring no food was left out to lure animals. Satisfied that everything was in order, he settled by the fire with a journal in hand. The distant cry of a loon echoed through the forest, and the stars lit up the night sky. Unknown to David, a grizzly bear had been wandering through the area, its keen sense of smell guiding it closer to his campsite. Curious and likely searching for food, the bear approached cautiously through the underbrush. David first became aware of its presence when he heard the crack of a branch. He stood up, his heart racing, and scanned the darkness with his flashlight. The beam of light eventually caught the bear's eyes glint just beyond the clearing's edge. Realizing the danger, David immediately grabbed a pot and a metal spoon from his camping gear. He banged them together loudly, shouting to scare the bear away. It worked momentarily as the bear paused and appeared hesitant, but the scent of the campsite was too enticing, and the grizzly began to advance. David's adrenaline surged as the animal entered the clearing, its massive frame illuminated by the firelight. When the bear suddenly charged, David had no time to react. The powerful animal knocked him to the ground, its weight and strength overwhelming. The bear mauled David's leg, causing deep gashes and severe pain. Desperate to survive, he tried to shield himself with his arms while shouting to deter the attack. The grizzly eventually retreated, leaving David injured and alone in the darkness. The forest's quiet returned, but David's ordeal was far from over. David lay in the clearing, his leg throbbing with pain. Blood seeped from the deep wounds left by the bear's powerful claws and teeth. He knew that time was critical. Summoning all his strength, he assessed the damage to his leg. His leg was severely mauled, leaving him unable to stand or walk properly. Despite the intense pain, he understood that staying in the open was dangerous. The bear could return, or the scent of blood might draw another predator. Dragging himself with his arms, David began inching toward his truck, parked not far from the campsite. The rough, uneven terrain and jagged rocks made every inch grueling. Each movement unleashed searing pain through his body, yet his will to survive kept him going. The cold night air bit into his skin, sapping his strength with every passing moment, but he refused to give up. After what felt like hours, David finally reached his vehicle. He struggled to pull himself inside, gripping the door handle with trembling hands. Once inside, he used a first aid kit to bandage his wounds as best as possible. The effort left him exhausted, but he knew he needed medical attention immediately. Turning the ignition, he started the truck and drove to the nearest ranger station. The journey was perilous, as the narrow forest roads were difficult to navigate in his weakened state. David arrived at the ranger station just before dawn. Rangers quickly assessed his injuries and called for emergency services. Paramedics arrived shortly after and transported him to a nearby hospital. Doctors treated David for multiple deep lacerations and broken bones in his leg. The injuries were severe, and while the medical team was able to save his leg, the damage left him with permanent mobility issues. He would later rely on a cane for walking, a constant reminder of the night he faced a grizzly bear in the wild. The incident prompted immediate action from park officials. Warning signs were placed in the area to alert campers about recent bear activity. Rangers increased patrols near popular camping spots, and educational campaigns were launched to inform visitors about bear safety. David's story became a powerful example of the risks those who venture into remote areas alone face. Despite his injuries, David remained passionate about the outdoors. He used his experience to advocate for better safety measures in parks and wilderness areas. He spoke at community events, sharing his story and encouraging others to be cautious but not afraid of nature. His survival inspired many, highlighting the importance of preparation and resilience in facing danger. Wildlife officials later tracked and relocated the bear involved in the attack. They noted that the grizzly's behavior was not aggressive, but rather a result of curiosity and hunger. This understanding helped park authorities implement strategies to minimize future human-bear encounters, ensuring both people and wildlife could coexist more safely. David's ordeal was a reminder of the unpredictable power of nature and the strength it takes to survive against all odds. On February 15, 2023, the Arctic sun cast a pale light over the icy expanse of Canada's Arctic archipelago. A group of Inuits from a small village near Resolute Bay had ventured out on a hunting trip. These trips were a vital tradition, not just for sustenance, but also for preserving their ancestral way of life. Janek, the eldest and most experienced hunter, led the group, including his nephew Taktu and two younger men, Aput and Nuka, eager to learn from their elders. In his 60s, Janek was deeply respected in the community for his knowledge of the Arctic wilderness. He had spent decades navigating its frozen landscapes, sharing stories of survival and teaching others how to live in harmony with nature. On this day, the group was tracking seals along the jagged coastline. They moved cautiously across the ice, their harpoons and knives secured to their sleds, drawn by sturdy dogs bred for the harsh climate. The weather was clear, but the biting cold seeped into their clothes despite their heavy parkas. As they moved further from the village, the group remained alert. They knew the wilderness held dangers beyond the cold. Hungry and desperate after a long winter, polar bears often wandered these parts. Janek had warned them about the risks, but they trusted his expertise and confidently moved. A distant shape caught their attention as the group approached a ridge overlooking a vast expanse of ice. A massive polar bear, camouflaged against the white landscape, emerged behind a mound of snow. Its eyes locked onto the group, and it began moving toward them. Janek immediately signaled for the others to stand their ground. They raised their harpoons, knowing they would have to defend themselves. The bear, driven by hunger, charged with startling speed. Before they could react, it lunged at Janek, sinking its claws into his leg and dragging him across the ice. Janek's leg was severely injured, with deep wounds from the bear's claws. The other hunters rushed to his aid, striking the bear with their harpoons and knives. The bear, undeterred, lashed out with its massive paws, knocking one of the harpoons from Taktu's grip. The struggle was fierce, the bear's roars echoing across the frozen landscape. Despite his injuries, Janek shouted instructions to the group, urging them to aim for the bear's sensitive areas. Blood stained the snow as the hunters fought desperately to protect one another. Just as it seemed the bear would overpower them, a rescue team, alerted by the sounds of the commotion, arrived on snowmobiles. The loud engines and flashing lights startled the bear, causing it to retreat. The group, though shaken, quickly gathered around Janek. He was bleeding heavily and in immense pain, but remained conscious. The rescuers helped him onto a sled, and the group began returning to their village. The attack left a lasting mark on the hunters, a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life in the Arctic. However, their bond remained unbroken as they worked together to survive the ordeal. The rescuers transported Janek back to the village as quickly as possible. The sled moved steadily over the uneven ice, each bump causing Janek to wince from the pain. His leg was severely mauled, with deep cuts and visible swelling from the bear's attack. The rest of the group followed closely behind, their faces filled with worry and exhaustion. They had managed to defend themselves and survive, but the weight of what had happened hung heavy in the freezing air. Once they reached the village, Janek was taken to the community's small medical station. The village healer and a paramedic from a nearby outpost worked to clean and stitch his wounds. The injuries were serious, but they were confident he would recover. Janek had lost a significant amount of blood and was weak, but he was stable. The other hunters gathered outside, their silence reflecting the intensity of the event they had just endured. Word of the attack spread quickly through the village. Families and elders gathered to hear the details and offer support. The story of the bear's aggression shocked many, as such attacks were rare, even in the harsh Arctic environment. The hunters explained how the bear had charged without hesitation, likely driven by starvation during the long winter months. The community listened, their concern growing not only for Janek, but also for the increased unpredictability of wildlife in the area. Over the next several days, Janek remained under close observation. The wounds on his leg began to heal, but the experience left him with a limp that would never fully disappear. The damage to his leg muscles was too severe for him to regain his full range of motion. Despite this, he remained optimistic, grateful to be alive. He continued to guide the younger hunters, sharing his knowledge from his bed and encouraging them to stay vigilant in the wild. The attack also significantly changed the village. Community leaders organized a meeting to discuss ways to protect hunters and families from future incidents. They decided to establish better communication systems, including equipping hunting groups with satellite radios to call for help in emergencies. They also planned to provide additional training on handling encounters with aggressive wildlife. Conservationists and researchers outside the village noted the incident. The increasing challenges Arctic predators face due to climate change became a focal point of discussion. Shrinking sea ice and declining prey availability pushed polar bears closer to human settlements, creating a new layer of danger for the animals and the people who shared the land. The story of Janek and his group spread beyond the Arctic. News outlets highlighted the hunters' bravery and the challenges indigenous communities faced in remote areas. Donations and support poured in, helping the village acquire better equipment and resources. Janek's determination to recover and continue teaching inspired many. Though he could no longer hunt as he once did, his role as a mentor became even more vital, ensuring that his knowledge and experience would guide future generations in navigating the ever-changing Arctic landscape. On October 21, 2024, Peter and Lauren, a couple from Portland, Oregon, decided to spend their day hiking in a national park in Washington on the Olympic Peninsula. Both deeply loved nature and enjoyed exploring the park's dense forests, rivers, and waterfalls. The park, known for its beautiful landscapes, was one of their favorite places to visit, and they had planned the trip for months. The couple was well prepared for the hike, carrying a backpack with water, snacks, and other essentials for a long outdoor adventure. After hours of trekking, Peter and Lauren decided to stop for lunch at a secluded waterfall near the Solduke Hot Springs. The area was peaceful, with water flowing and birds chirping in the trees. They set up a small picnic by the waterfall's edge, enjoying the serene surroundings. The couple was relaxed, unaware that they were not alone. Nearby, a large black bear had caught the scent of food. The bear, searching for an easy meal, had wandered into the area without making a sound. As it drew closer, Peter and Lauren continued to enjoy their lunch, not noticing the animal until it was too late. When the bear suddenly charged, the tourists froze in shock and fear. The bear's powerful movement sent Lauren tumbling to the ground. It immediately began mauling her leg, causing excruciating pain. In a panic, Peter grabbed rocks and threw them at the bear, yelling to scare it off. However, the bear did not retreat and kept its hold on Lauren. Peter's efforts to intervene seemed useless against the powerful creature. His heart raced as he watched helplessly. Knowing their only hope was for someone else to notice them, he used his emergency whistle to attract the attention of other hikers. In the distance, other hikers heard Peter's whistle and the frantic sounds of the attack. Recognizing the urgency, they rushed toward the scene. When they arrived, they saw the bear pinning Lauren to the ground. Acting quickly, one hiker blew an emergency whistle, its sharp, piercing sound cutting through the chaos. Startled, the bear paused and looked around, momentarily disoriented. Seizing the opportunity, the hikers continued making noise, and the unnerved bear released Lauren and retreated into the forest. Peter immediately rushed to Lauren's side, his heart still pounding. She was in terrible pain and her leg was injured. The couple's quick thinking and using the whistle had saved them, as the hikers could alert park rangers who arrived shortly afterward. They helped Lauren, carefully examining her injuries before determining that she would need surgery to repair the damage to her leg. The bear attack was a terrifying experience for Peter and Lauren. Fortunately, they both survived, but Lauren's leg would be a long-term reminder of the traumatic incident. Lauren's leg required surgery and her injuries were severe, leaving her with a lengthy recovery ahead. The attack served as a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of wildlife in national parks, raising concerns among park officials and visitors alike about the increasing bear presence near popular tourist spots. The experience left them shaken but thankful for the swift response of others and the support they received during their ordeal. The couple would remember this day for the rest of their lives, always with a sense of caution whenever they ventured into nature. After the bear retreated into the forest, the hikers quickly helped Peter and Lauren. They did their best to comfort Lauren, who was still shocked by the attack. Lauren could remain calm despite the pain, knowing that help had arrived. The rescue team arrived soon after, providing medical assistance to Lauren. They carefully placed her on a stretcher and began the journey to get her to the nearest ranger station. It was a difficult and slow process, as the terrain was rugged, but the rescuers worked quickly to get her the help she needed. Though relieved that the immediate danger had passed, Peter was deeply concerned for his partner. He couldn't stop thinking about how close they had come to losing her. The emotional toll of the attack weighed heavily on him, as he kept replaying the terrifying moments in his mind. As they made their way to the ranger station, the forest's quiet seemed eerie compared to the chaos unfolding. The couple, who had come to the park for a peaceful day in nature, now faced a long journey of recovery and healing. Once at the ranger station, Lauren was airlifted to a nearby hospital. The doctors confirmed that she would need surgery on her leg to repair the deep wounds caused by the bear's attack. They explained that the bear's claws had caused serious damage to her muscles and bones, which would require months of physical therapy to regain full mobility. Though the medical staff reassured her that she would eventually walk again, Lauren's journey to recovery would be long and painful. News of the attack spread quickly. Soon, many talked about the increasing presence of bears in the area. Park officials took immediate action, placing new warnings at popular tourist spots and hiking trails. They also increased patrols and reminded visitors to be extra cautious, especially when eating or leaving food unattended. The attack prompted a review of safety measures, ensuring tourists were better educated about bear behavior and the proper precautions to take when in bear country. Though shaken, Peter and Lauren decided to use their experience to help others. They began sharing their story with others planning to visit the national park, warning them about the dangers of bear encounters and urging them to take safety seriously. Peter, in particular, wanted to ensure that people understood the importance of carrying bear spray, an emergency whistle, making noise, and storing food securely. Lauren's leg healed as time passed, though she always carried the scars of that fateful day. The attack had left its mark on both of them, but it also made them more aware of nature's power and unpredictability. They continued to love the outdoors, but now they approached every adventure with a heightened sense of caution and respect for the wild animals that called these places home. The bear attack at the national park powerfully reminded us that while nature can be beautiful, it can also be dangerous. Peter and Lauren's experience became a cautionary tale for others who visited national parks, urging them to stay vigilant and prepared when encountering wildlife. The couple's story helped raise awareness and promote better safety measures, ensuring that future visitors have the knowledge and tools to protect themselves in such environments.